Guys, worst roommate ever on Netflix. I may be late to it, but I can't believe this. We are talking about the first episode. Let's chat about this, right? Let me tell you the story first. So we are talking about Jamie, Rachel, and Rachel's son, Ryder. Now, Ryder doesn't come into the picture until many, many years later, but basically, Rachel is someone who was married before, and she was married to a man who was very, very critical of her, very controlling. She just didn't feel free, didn't feel loved. It wasn't a good relationship. The marriage didn't last too long, and after the divorce, she moved in with her parents. Now, Rachel has never lived alone. I mean, she went from her parents to university, to marriage, back to her parents, and then she met Janie. Now, Janie was a single woman living on her own in her apartment. Her apartment had gotten broken into recently when they met back in 1995. And she was kind of afraid of living alone, so these two connected, became friends, and they were like, oh wait, I don't want to live with my parents, you don't want to live alone, let's solve this right now and become roomies. So they move in together. Now, it was kind of a good balance to start with, because Rachel is someone who is very outgoing, very social. She worked as a paramedic, was always very active, had a lot of friends, a lot of plans, things going on. And Janie was to herself, didn't really grow up with friends at all, didn't have good social skills, and she really admired the fact that Rachel was someone who was very social and wanted to be her friend. And the only thing with Janie was that she was very, very good with the money, where Rachel wasn't. So Rachel would go to work, make money, and Janie would basically manage the finances for the household and advise Rachel on what to do with her money. So, you know, it kind of worked out for the both of them. And Rachel would always invite Janie out to get her out of her shell and around people. And it was good at first. Janie was open to it. It was something that was kind of fun between the two. Rachel would sometimes pretend that she was not American and couldn't speak English, so Janie had to strike conversation and translate, and it was just silly, but that's what they did back in the 90s. Things started to get kind of weird, and red flags started to pop up when guys would get Rachel's attention and talk to her, and other friends around noticed that Janie seemed to have a bit of resentment, underlying resentment, unhappiness. When Rachel's attention was pulled away, it was not natural. People thought that maybe she was in love with Rachel and just didn't have the courage to say it, because who cares if your girlfriend is talking to a guy? You're happy for her, right? Not Janie. So Rachel began dating this guy, and the guy would come over sometimes and watch movies, and Janie would be at the bottom of the stairs yelling at the top of her lungs about how the TV is too loud and to turn it down. she had her surgery, and it seemed that Rachel's pain was getting worse and worse, and she just said, I have to go to the doctor. She went to the doctor, and the doctor went to go look at the incision, and he was horrified. This is gonna be gross, guys, I'm giving you a warning. He said that it looked like it was blue cheese coming out. And he was horrified. He's like, you need to go into surgery right now. She had this horrible infection. An infection that was caused by this kind of bacteria or something that was almost immune to antibiotics. Which, this is very dangerous because something like that, if it gets into the bloodstream, she can turn septic and die. Now this was something called MRSA. So Janie knew that Rachel was in a very dire situation, and they really thought that it's possible that she couldn't make it. I mean, she was so sick. But then Rachel called Janie and was like, it's okay, I'm gonna be okay, I'm gonna survive this, I'm fine, I'm getting better. And Rachel eventually got to go back home, and, you know, Janie seemed normal. And they were watching true crime because Rachel actually loved true crime shows, true crime content. And so they were watching this true crime show on TV, and on the show, I think a nurse unalived her boyfriend with some kind of a drug, and Rachel told Janie when they were sitting on the couch, oh, that's dumb, why would she inject him with that? The best way to do it is with insulin. Insulin is already naturally in the body, not knowing that she was literally telling this girl how to unalive her. And so Janie looked intrigued. She was like, really? So what does Janie do? Well, hold on. So basically, something happens and Rachel's blood sugar levels drop down to 13. And that's incredibly low. And she's a healthy person. She had no history with any troubles with her blood sugar or insulin levels, nothing. And so she goes to the hospital to get her blood sugar levels back up. And she's fine, she goes back home. And same thing happens, she ends up in the hospital, wakes up in the hospital, doesn't know what happened, blood sugar levels dropped, got to the point where she would literally eat sugar. son in the case that she died. And the person that she put in her will to take care of her child was Janie. Two important things. I don't think that the life insurance policy was the main objective for Janie, but of course it's a bonus, right? Now, Janie was very much in love with this baby boy, and he's autistic, by the way. But she was very much in love with him, like really felt like a parent, and they would argue sometimes about who's going to get right or who's going to take care of him, and Rachel had to be like, I'm his mother, I had this child, there's not an argument here, I'm telling you what it is. When I say I'm having him, and that's it. And Janie didn't like this. I think also because even though she wasn't his biological mother, she felt a lot like his mom because of all the responsibility that she took on to take care of him, and to, you know, she basically became a parent to him in her mind, but she still wasn't his mother. And Janie couldn't accept this kind of response from Rachel. She was very upset about it, so Janie took the kid to her job, and Rachel received a notice that she was being sued for custody by Janie, so that Janie could take custody from Rachel and have custody over her child. And Rachel called Janie and was like, what the heck is going on? Did you do this? And at first Janie responded on the telephone like happy and, hey, you know, what's up, like everything's normal. And when Rachel brought this up, she was like, yes, she just got super serious. And Rachel hung up the phone and immediately called the police, and the police were like, yeah, she is filing for custody, and there's also a restraining order against you. She was like, a restraining order? I'm weak, I can't even really get out of bed, I'm in bed all day, I'm in pain all the time. Apparently Jane even put in the letter that she's a drug addict, and that Rachel had to move out of the home immediately. So Rachel had to move out of the home, and she got investigated, and they found out during the investigation that she's actually not a drug addict. She just takes pain medication for her back, and she takes it in the normal and right way, and that everything that, you know, Janie put in the letter was a lie, and there was no reason for her to fight for custody. You know, like Rachel could have her child, and Rachel was without her child for, I think, about 10 days, which that is a long time to go without seeing your kid. I mean, that's just devastating. She couldn't believe that her best friend did this. And so basically Rachel and her son ended up in a homeless shelter, and they were there for a little while. Janie reached out, and the reason why she was there is because her father lived quite a distance away, and she just didn't have any immediate family around. Janie was her only person that, you know, had her back or was supposed to have her back. And anyways, Janie reached out back to her, and she really wanted to see Ryder. She missed Ryder a lot. She really feels like Ryder belongs with her. And she asked, can we just meet at the park so I can see him? And here goes Rachel, sure. And then Janie proposes that they move back in with her. And she's like, I definitely don't want my kid to be in this environment. I want to be at home, so fine, I'll come back to the house. They come back to the house, and was like, it's just, she made up some, coffee beans. And the FBI gave her another chance. They were like, okay, I don't think that's coffee beans. What's in the package? And she was like, okay, fine, it's this staph bacteria for an experiment that I'm doing. Or she even said something else, like some tools to make beer. Something to make beer. And then after that, she admitted that it was the staph bacteria, and they arrested her because she had no business having this. It can cause real damage. And so they went to the house where she lived because, I don't know if they knew about the situation with Rachel. And they went to Rachel and they sat her down, and Rachel thought that she was in trouble, that she did something. They're like, no, it's not about you, it's about your roommate, Janie, and Janie's probably not gonna call you. Because she's like, well, Janie's arrested, why wouldn't she call me? They were like, probably not gonna call you. And they told her that Janie had gone on the dark web, and that she had ordered something called MRSA and Versa, and that Versa was worse than MRSA, and Rachel had MRSA before, and Rachel was in total disbelief that she was even on the dark web. And then, she kind of started to really listen and get into it, and she was like, do they sell insulin on the dark web? And the FBI agents, they look at each other, they're like, yeah, because remember, Rachel had this problem with her blood sugar dropping. Apparently, what Janie would do is she got all this on the dark web. She got ketamine, and she would drug Rachel with the ketamine before she went to sleep, so that when she injected her with the insulin, she wouldn't feel it, and her blood sugar would drop. And she literally attempted 5 times to take this woman's life and take her child, our best friend of 25 years at this point. And Rachel was horrified. And skipping, what ended up happening was that Janie did get sentenced. The judge recommended 1 to 22 years, which 1 year, what is that? But she actually ended up staying in jail for 25 months, not 25 years, 25 months. And she was recorded on a phone call saying that I already know what's going to happen. I'm going to get out of here. And I'm gonna be locked up for a little bit, and then I'm gonna get out of here, and I'm going to do whatever I have to do to get him back. He doesn't belong with her, he belongs with me. And that's where it ended, and she's out of jail now. Now, what her whereabouts are, I don't know. What ended up happening with Rachel and their relationship, I don't know. My only thing is that I do fear for Rachel, because if Janie is out and has this obsession, it's just scary to be living your life in the back of your mind, knowing that this person who knows everything about you was out to unalive you and take your child. And they actually said that if that woman, Janie, had succeeded in taking Rachel's life, guess what would have happened? It would have been called an attendant death, meaning that there was somebody with her on the deathbed, in the hospital or whatever. And because of that, there would have been no investigation, no autopsy, case closed. She died for whatever reason. And Janie would have gotten that kid with $500,000 and living her life. She would have been successful. How scary is that? I feel Rachel was protected. I feel Rachel was so protected. I just think I think she missed a lot of red flags and gave a lot of excuses, but also she was dependent on Janie, which is so unfortunate for the time that she was basically disabled and in bed all day, couldn't even take care of her own son. This is someone that you trust, and they turn on on you again and again. I mean, she even said, I mean, there were red flags, but she just kind of forgave it from when she was possessive and jealous and these bursts of anger, you know. And she even mentioned seeing this kind of a dark side to Janie, and then feeling possessive over Rachel, and then feeling possessive over Rachel's son and turning on Rachel. I mean, Janie, it was said in the beginning that she grew up kind of lonely, didn't really have friends, and some people don't. But my thing is that I think Janie always had some kind of a mental issue, clearly, and maybe that was the reason why people didn't really mess with her in that way, or something. I don't know. I think she always had an issue, and Rachel, for some reason, excused this kind of behavior, whereas other people would have backed off and distanced themselves and found that strange. It's just, even if she showed red flags, well, I think throughout their relationship, throughout their friendship, you still know this person 20-25 years. That's why Rachel was like, there's no way she would try to unalive me. There's no way. But I think looking back in hindsight, things do make more sense to her, that something never was right with Janie. This is a really good series on Netflix. I only watched this one. There are quite a few